Okay, here is my Zero Electric street bike project. I purchased this Zero S Electric street bike on eBay. It did not work. They told me that it was just a battery pack, so I purchased it and disassembled it and got the battery pack out, which is no easy project. I then purchased some batteries out of a wrecked Model S, Tesla Model S, and then removed the battery, each individual battery, out of the plastic holders that Tesla puts in there. They do a very good job, let me tell you. Those little lines are coolant and heating lines to keep the batteries perfectly cool. Once I cleaned them up, I put them in a little Chinese plastic holders you can buy off of eBay. I then took the battery pack out of the bike. These are the original batteries that are in the pack when you buy the model, the Zero. You can see the top portion up there. That's actually for the dirt bike. They just kind of stacked the dirt bike pack on top of the other one, which is kind of a weird idea. But you can see it's just shrink wrapped. Once you cut that, there's just little rubber bands that hold the metal strapping on there. Is not soldered or anything. Basically everything's just kind of touching. This is the balancer that's inside the pack to monitor and keep the pack balanced. You can see the cells that are in there are 1335 milliamps. Basically, they're quite large in comparison to the 18650s that I used out of the Tesla, which is basically the same battery that's in a laptop, just a little bit of a special chemistry from what I heard that Tesla worked out a deal. To get that pack out of there is kind of tricky. You have to pick the back of the pack up. You have to pick up the back of the bike and tilt it to get it out, which is kind of a tough thing to do, but it can be done. It just got to have some patience and rig up something to tilt the bike, kind of pitch it to the front. So once I got everything disassembled, you can see how it is. There's actually I guess the original pack is on the bottom portion. The top portion, as you see right here, is for the dirt bike, and just kind of set the dirt bike one on there and connect the two, and then use one balancer to balance the whole system. You can see how they connect them. It's kind of interesting. They just shrink wrap it and then use tape to hold it together. The cells are really not that great that are in there. The process isn't all that bad how they do it. But anyway, so I tore it all apart. I wanted to test the bike to make sure that it didn't have any other problems besides the pack. So what I did is I made a temporary battery pack and hooked it up to the bike just to make sure the bike was going to function. I just set it up just like the original, but obviously with huge batteries, I just had to make sure that there wasn't a problem with the controller or whatever. So once I put the Tesla batteries in, I just sealed the batteries where the next set came in contact so that if it was ever in a wreck and smashed, they couldn't touch each other and cause a short. This picture's obviously not that good. You can tell I'm not a professional at video. But once the Tesla batteries were all cleaned up, I put them in the Chinese holders, and then I strapped them in a unique configuration. I kind of connected them all together, of course, as separate. I think there's about 45 18650s, if I remember right, for each cell, but I connected them all together in that 45. And then to connect them to the next level, I actually just used the same strapping to go up to the next level, and I put plexiglass in between when I stacked them so that you could see how it was connected, how everything looked, but there was no grounding out or touching to cause a short. Of course, I had the balancing wires, as you see there, to connect to each set of 45 cells, somewhere in that range. and to make sure that they were being balanced correctly, and the balancer could monitor all that. Once I got them all aligned and square, just to make sure that they would fit in the original space, it was going to be tight. I could have put one less in there and made a little more room, but I figured tight would be better. Once it was sealed up, I just made sure they were all connected really tightly. You can see there's more balancing wires here. Now these little connectors, I just wanted to make sure that the grounds and things were connected really well, so I put a couple extra connections because jumping it from each level is kind of tricky. But you can see that main connector goes across the whole connection. This is the completed pack before it's taped up. I also used a power supply plug and connected it for the balancer so that I didn't have to connect the balancer until I was done. So I just used a regular power supply plug and connected it to where when I'm finished, I could just plug it in and it'd be plug and play instead of having to have the balancer hardwired the way they did it. That way, as you can see here, it's just a plug instead of having the balancer hanging off of there. I just set it up with the plug. It was much neater, and I could test it or anything I wanted to do. Then I put it inside the original holder and plugged it in and sealed it up. It was super tight, which is good because you don't want the batteries moving around if you have an accident or whatever. So once I put it together, I put it back in. But thanks for watching, and it worked great. I get about 300 miles.